you know kind of the rules of the road, Jim. Someone elevates for a dunk or layup.
Yep.
If you're beaten like that, you don't touch them at all. The 20th pick in the 2014 draft. Jordan Bell to McCaw to let it in.
Oh my!
And Pat took a tough fall again.
He did this a few games ago, the same spot, the lower back. And that hurts.
Patrick McCaw was drafted 38th in the 2016 draft, and the plan was for him to become the eventual Iguodala/Livingston replacement. A long, quick, defensive-minded guard who didn't need the ball in his hands to succeed. And initially, it looked like the Warriors had struck gold again in the second round, finding Patrick McCaw after his 2 years at UNLV. Now, you have to remember, he was being brought on to literally one of the greatest teams we've ever seen assembled, with the Warriors also acquiring KD that same summer. And so it wasn't like he was going to get a ton of opportunity, but in the opportunities that he did get, he fit in, he understood the system, and it seemed like a perfect match. But here's the crazy part. When you look back at that roster with 4, maybe 5 Hall of Famers on it, what if I told you it was Patrick McCaw was the only one to achieve that elusive three-peat? Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. You've heard the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? And the truth is, look, the older you get, the more stuck in your ways you tend to be, and it does become harder to change your ways and learn new things. I think that that's where BetterHelp can benefit a lot of people. Myself personally, I tend to over-focus on the physical side of things. If I get a good workout in, I'm going to feel better and I'm going to be good. But the truth of the matter is that's just half of it. And if you can open up your inner dialogue and vocalize it to somebody, I think it can go a long way in not just overall mindset and health, but it can leave you more dynamic to changing things and seeing new perspectives. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's super convenient. It's flexible. It's suited around your schedule. You fill out a quick survey. You get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch at any time if you want. So rediscover curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/alchemy and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/alchemy. The irony of that sponsorship is not lost on me. Some may say Pat McCaw needed better help around him, perhaps off the court. But let's go back to when they initially got Pat McCaw, because that was my first year covering the team in this format on YouTube, and I was super excited. I went back, looked at all the UNLV tape, read up on him, his coach's kid, right? Watched every summer league game, and he fit the part, man. You know, he had great hands. He got drafted because of his defense, right? Now, the offense wasn't broken, but, you know, he wasn't as refined or polished offensively, but he did one thing very well. He cut off the ball. He didn't really need the ball. And then defensively, great dig down hands. There was a running joke that he used to rip people's crossovers. Steph, Andre, all of them, right? That's how good of hands he had defensively. And I was, you know, I thought he was going to be a guy, man. I was even calling him P-Mac. I gave him the nickname P-Mac, kind of like T-Mac. That's how good I thought Patrick McCaw was going to be. He played 15 minutes per game his rookie year, despite that loaded team, and then 17 minutes his second year. But what you have to remember is that was the heart of the third quarter Warriors, right? The fourth quarter didn't matter. So a lot of it was garbage time, but he still was getting on the floor, and he was becoming, you know, he was seen because the Warriors were rock stars, right? Every game was on national TV, and people were aware of the 38th pick, Patrick McCaw, out of UNLV. And he did play some playoff minutes in both of those 2 seasons on his way to those championship rings, and even filling in for Andre when he was chipped up. Surprise, surprise, right? But he had spot minutes in the playoffs as well, and he was playing so well that Iguodala himself said, yo, he's my replacement. I already know I'm like lacing him with game, and he's my replacement, but I'm a good dude. I'm a pro, so I'm going to do it, right? So what happened? What happened with Patrick McCaw? I think you can start with the clip in the beginning of this video where he goes down in Sacramento. Vince Carter goes LA Fitness on him, and Vince felt terrible about that, right? But that was an injury beyond basketball, right? Getting stretched out, a neck, back injury, an injury that can really change your perspective on life, right? It was not blowing your knee out or something like that. It was like, hey, this could all be taken away from me, just like that. And so that can change the perspective in a young dude. And Pat ended up playing. He came back after a few months, right? But he was traumatized from it. He didn't want to go to the basket as hard. And I think more importantly, I think maybe had the mindset of, since this all can be taken away from me, I need to get paid now. I need to play now. I need to shine now, And reportedly, his father, a lot of fathers have heavy influence on their sons as pro athletes, right? And he was a basketball coach. And so that usually goes one of two ways in my experience when it's a coach's kid. One, they're either extra hard on their kid and they want to let everyone know, hey, I'm not giving any type of favoritism to my kid and I'm going to make it rougher for him and push them. Or they're kind of shielded and they, get opportunities that they wouldn't have. Now, I don't know. Pat's from St. Louis, and it didn't seem like it was that type of relationship where Pat was kind of being gaslighted by his father as a basketball coach. But after winning that second championship and, still dealing with, trying to recover, I think, psychologically from that fall in Sacramento, he turned down a 2-year, $4 million extension headed into the 18-19 season. Mind you, KD hadn't left yet. There was still one more year of KD, so I don't think he saw the opportunity available. There wasn't that big space, that big void from KD leaving yet. And he held out for 3 months, right? This is a kid that had won 2 NBA championships in a row, on the best team in the league, was the 38th pick, and it was kind of baffling. And again, it sounded like the outside influences and along with that traumatic injury changed his perspective maybe in a negative way. But let's be honest here. In hindsight, looking back, Kerr doesn't exactly have a great track record of developing young guys or giving young guys the opportunity that they wanted, right? So, now it's kind of like, maybe a part of that was going on behind the scenes where Pat kind of knew or felt like Kerr ain't ever going to play me over Dot or Andre as long as they're here. And he probably is thinking Durant's going to, extend and be here another 4 or 5 years. And so he holds out till midway through the season, December, January, and the Cavs offer him a $6 million 2-year deal that's non-guaranteed. It was a funny deal. And it almost felt like Dan Gilbert was doing it in spite. We all know, it was Cavs Warriors finals, 5 years in a row, right? And so he was like, hey, let's stick it to these guys. Let's offer him this deal. And the NBA realized it was a funny deal because they waived him like a couple weeks after they gave him the deal. And so the Cavs were punished with some first-round picks. I don't know if they were first-round picks, some draft picks, I'll say, right? And Pat eventually signs on with the soon-to-be champion Toronto Raptors, the Kawhi Raptors. And he played a little bit in those finals, right? And it was strange. It was a strange thing to see, especially for those first 2 years. It felt like he was going to be not just a role player, a core piece of the Warriors' future moving forward. And so he ends up three-peating against his former team. And Kawhi obviously dips to LA that summer, leaving a void and more opportunity with Nick Nurse and this Raptors team. And Pat played, but it was almost in kind of the same role he had in Golden State because Norm Powell and a young Terrence Davis were ahead of him on the depth charts. Meanwhile, the NBA goes to the bubble. We all remember that, right? Well, Pat McCaw leaves the bubble because of knee irritation and wasn't a part of that playoff run for that Raptors team. And it turned out he had a malignant lump on the back of his knee. It's a strange injury, right? And so he had to get that cleared up and cleaned out. But he was never able to regain traction within the rotation. And April 8th of 2021, the Raptors waived Pat McCaw. So where is Pat McCaw today?
What's up, everybody? It's Patrick McCaw of the Delaware Bluecoats. For me, it's just working, getting better, keep improving myself, work my way back into the NBA. That's the main goal for me. Of course, it's about winning. Of course, always about winning, but the main goal for me is getting back to the NBA.
28 years old now and putting up very good shooting splits in the G League, 38% from three, 50% field goal, 1.5 steals per game, 28 minutes. He's getting plenty of opportunity. And you look around the league today, and it feels like he's one of the prototype type of wings, a guy that can defend, run the floor, doesn't need the ball, shoots the three, and it just makes you wonder why he hasn't gotten another opportunity yet. Did the way he handled the Warriors situation to the Cavs, to the Raptors, did that leave a bitter taste in the league's mouth, right? And, you know, it just goes to show, I think, and this is not fair to Pat to say that he's not likable, but if you are impartial to Pat, he's just a quiet dude in the background, it doesn't matter if you're an NBA player or you work for FedEx, you're not going to get as many opportunities as the guys that are likable. Like, think about it. How many opportunities did Quinn Cook get around the league? Quinn Cook's played for 5 different teams. Heck, he's probably on a roster this preseason, right? But Pat can't get another sniff at the league. Pat McCaw, he has to be a top 3 disappointment for me as far as a guy that the Warriors had and I thought was going to be a star-ish type of player. And that's what I wanted to ask y'all about and wrap this video up with was, give me your top 3 most disappointing Warriors. And here's the thing about disappointment, right? It's all relative because I think, you know, you can look at Damian Jones, Jordan Bell, Jacob Evans, right? But contextually, you're looking at end of first round, second round picks. What were your expectations for them? And so your disappointments are going to be different from my disappointments. James Wiseman, right? Maybe you never expected him to be good, and so he wasn't a disappointment to you, right? Jordan Bell, there was about an 8-month period where it felt like he was going to be Draymond's replacement, right? I can go back to, remember Paul McPherson? Now I'm going to age myself with the guns, crazy dunks, Chris Porter. I mean, there's been so many of these guys over the, you know, watching the Warriors the last 30 plus years, man. And again, it's all your perspective and expectations. But Pat McCaw, man, I hope to see him back in the league because I think he has the talent. And again, I don't want to say he's a good kid. You see Miles Bridges rapping, like Pat McCaw is fine. I'm just curious why he hasn't made it back and kind of the mishandling of his career. Winning 3 championships, I guess you can say it's a success and he's not a disappointment. He could call it a day and have 3 rings, right? But you just wonder where he would be at if he would have stayed with the Warriors and what opportunities he would have been afforded. Again, looking back in hindsight, though, these young guys, for whatever reason, whether it's the talent in front of them, the coaching staff, the front office, get kind of jumpy and itchy as far as their opportunities with this Warriors organization. And right now, you're looking at both Kuminga and Moody kind of in those same spots. Anyway, in the comments, let me know your 3 biggest disappointments in this Warriors organization since you've been a fan. 3 guys you thought they didn't necessarily have to be franchise players, but you thought were going to be like a core piece and perhaps a star. Anthony Randolph, anyone? Anyway, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.